They're back. They are absolutely back. There's a Max factor here.
It's coming. It is coming.
At your peril.
Do you unplug their wheel guns when they're not looking?
Guys,
I'll tell you what.
It's not good enough.
Beautiful. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the F1 show, sponsored by Audi, or as we're in Texas,
Audi.
Lovely stuff for that sponsor there. Here we are in the foyer of our hotel in downtown Austin. We're trying to get the music turned off. So if you see a maintenance guy in the background, that's what he's doing. Crofty, Karun, lovely to see you. Did you have a pleasant evening last night?
Sunday night in Austin is always something of a release from the tensions of the weekend, and Karun obviously had a lot of tensions over the course of the weekend. The entire paddock seemed to congregate in the Blind Pig pub. It was fun.
It was fun. And then I walked into some bar where they were selling this T-shirt.
Was that a T-shirt?
That's the T-shirt I bought last night, which is of Rick Mears, the greatest American driver never to race an F1. I thought, I'll buy that for the podcast.
Well, I mean...
$10 in a bar up there.
Seriously. Only you could do that.
What a deal. Shall we talk about the race? Because I know you had a bit of golf, so I don't want to get in the way of that.
You are dressed ready for it.
I'm heading straight to the course.
Max Verstappen, the lead 4 race weekends ago was 104. It's now down to 40. He's back.
But I don't think he's ever been away. He hasn't been away. I think his car's been away, and I think his team have struggled to engineer a car that can give him a chance to win. But he's never been away for me. And crucially, I think after the race, he started to let the veneer slip a little bit. You know, that veneer that says, it's a 50-50 chance of winning this. I either do it or I don't. I'm taking every race as they come, bit by bit. No, after yesterday, Max was, I've got a chance here. So he's publicly saying it. Behind the scenes, I think he's felt it now for 2 or 3 races.
64 points he's gained in the last 4 weekends. I mean, at this run rate, he will win it.
Yes.
There's a few anomalies. Obviously, Baku was a woeful weekend for McLaren. They had the double DNF in the sprint here. But it's, you like the T-Rex analogy. I use Jaws, but he's coming.
Jaws, that was mine, by the way.
I like yours.
I
like Jaws.
Yeah, it's not Jaws, and you booed that, but it is more like that.
Somebody actually sent me, if you don't know the T-Rex analogy, ladies and gentlemen, someone actually sent me this, which I think is actually what we're all talking about here. Lando and Oscar in a Jeep trying to escape the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. And yes, there were 3 people in the Jeep, but there are 2 for these purposes. He's coming at them. And McLaren have got to find a way of accelerating away, and they don't seem to be able to do that.
For me, this was the most important one, though, of the last 4 weekends, because this was the first normal track. Monza were like, they're good on a low downforce track. Same for Baku. In Singapore, Mercedes suddenly came out and were quickest. But this was the first normal track we've been to since Zandvoort. And in Zandvoort, the McLaren was clearly ahead. Not the case here. And I think the fact that Red Bull were quickest on the Friday sprint quali, and we thought, people haven't dialed the car in, blah, blah, blah. But then the gap got even bigger in main qualifying. It's like, they're back. They are absolutely back. And that, bodes well for them for the next 5 weekends.
Now, it should be said, of course, that McLaren didn't take part in the sprint. They didn't get beyond turn 1. So they lost all that data gathering. They lost the chance.
Do you think that mattered?
Yes, I do. At a bumpy track like Austin, where you need to monitor ride height for the skid block and plank wear, they lost all the ability to do that. I spoke to Andrea Stella after the race, had a quick chat, and he said, look, we left a lot of time in the garage, he said, all the spanners, kind of alluding to the fact they couldn't run it as aggressively low as they really wanted to. I said, but coming up, he went, look, Mexico, Brazil in the dry, we should be more competitive. We're not worried necessarily about Qatar and Abu Dhabi. We think that they'll be our tracks. He said, Vegas, though, Vegas is one where we could struggle a bit, although we think we found something. They weren't competitive last year, apart from the last stint with Lando, and they think they found something that they did in that last stint that brought the car alive a bit. But he's not panicking. Andrea Stella seems to think things will be okay, and he's compartmentalising. But to me, Karun, it's not the team. It's not those in the garage where you need to assess how they're feeling about this. It's Lando and it's Oscar, because they're the ones that can be affected by emotions, and it would be understandable if they are suddenly thinking, oh, hang on a minute, that T-Rex has got a bit too close.
I mean, Oscar didn't have a good weekend here, did he?
No.
He was behind Lando all weekend long, 2-3 tenths. I think what we have to think about is it will all be fine if the weekends are normal. We're going to Mexico, high risk of first lap incidents.
Yeah.
We're going to Brazil. We've seen some wild and wacky races. The weather always plays a part there. There can be some madness. Vegas, street circuit, again, there could be some real anomaly. There's a high chance you could end up in a situation where you get caught out in someone else's crash or in the weather, and all of a sudden, a DNF for either Oscar or Lando, and Max is there. You know, he's 40 points now. Imagine if he wins a race and Oscar has a DNF. Suddenly it's 15, and it's absolutely game on.
So, and we touched on this when Martin Brundle ran off to do the interviews at the end of the race. We touched on this. Do McLaren need to make a decision soon to prioritise one driver over the other to try and give them the best shot of winning a driver's title? And I know that's really, really tricky. I spoke to Pat Simmons at Cadillac about this, and he said, well, look, I probably wouldn't do it ahead of Mexico, but if they have another weekend in Mexico like they've just had here, you probably have to make a very harsh choice to preserve your chances.
I agree with you. At what point do they do that? I think it's brought that right back into focus.
Well, if it was any other team, I think they would be ruthless, and I think they would say, guys, I know you want to win, and I know we've given you this fair chance, but we need the silverware. We want the silverware, and this is our best way of doing it. It's a two-man team up against a one-man team. Right?
Okay, well then, with regard, if you drove off into the distance, but that might not have happened had it been for the fact that they'd put the softs on. Why didn't McLaren put the softs on the Lando car?
I honestly, on the formation lap, when we in the commentary box, the tyre info comes up, the 5-minute ball, and I was expecting more people to put the soft on. B, I was 100% thinking if there was somebody in the top 10 put the soft on, it's got to be Lando. They've got to seize the initiative at the start. And so I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed not to see, because it sort of pointed to a less aggressive mindset. To me, it pointed to a mindset of, if we get second, that's okay for the championship, rather than we need to stop the momentum of the thing. Clearly, the soft tyre worked off the start, and particularly not just the launch, but the exit of turn one. Leclerc had the grip to drive around the outside and the traction down the hill. And actually, it hung on, didn't it? The strategy worked okay. I don't think it was a better strategy per se, but it would have given him a chance to at least stay ahead of Leclerc and get in the fight with Max.
I got a feeling that they were playing conservative with Lando, and Lando was playing conservative. Even when they were squabbling early on before the first pit stop, it was exactly that. It was he knew that Leclerc was going to have to make the pit stop early, so actually he didn't get ultra aggressive with the pass. He just bided his time, and I thought actually quite a smart drive by Lando.
Yeah, it was, to accept that second, after losing the place on lap one, second was probably the best he was going to get. Overtaking was really tricky yesterday because the wind changed.
Yeah.
And we had that tailwind down the back straight. It made it very, very tricky indeed. Max, I think, admitted himself as well that Charles Leclerc rather spoilt the race, and that battle with Lando didn't happen. But I'm with Karun. That chance to be aggressive and seize the initiative was lost very much at the start. We have our briefings, don't we? Our commentary briefings. And at Ferrari, they were very much talking about the soft tyre, so it didn't surprise me to see Charles on it. And McLaren didn't mention it at all as being a tyre that would feature in the race. But that might come back to the day before and the lack of data gathering that they got from that sprint race. And I know the soft tyres weren't used, but it's all about, fuel loads, it's all about ride height, and they had none of that. So they went a bit blind into the race.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an excuse for not picking the soft, because nobody used the soft in the sprint, as you said. So to me, it's a mindset of Ferrari thinking a bit more aggressively. So, we've got to seize the opportunities, and they probably will come only on lap one. And let's roll the dice. And worst comes to worst, we'll end up where because we just do the opposite of everyone else, we just end up where we started. So roll the dice, have a go. If it doesn't work out, we'll still get third, which is, funny enough, what happened.
Exactly. What happened to Oscar Piastri this weekend? We said, a weekend not quite on the same levels as Baku, but it's just 3 in a row now, isn't it? Where he's not strung it all together.
I don't know. I didn't
Doing
see
the pressure of leading, being hunted.
possibly. Although he's been leading for so long now.
They've taken that out.
That's not exactly a new thing for him. I didn't sense any change in his demeanour, either in the interviews with Rachel or a couple of times that I managed to speak to him in the paddock. But sometimes you do just have off weekends, where whatever you do, it doesn't really come off. And I'll go back to overtaking was really, really difficult. And it all went wrong in qualifying, really. McLaren concentrated a bit more on what they needed for the race, which left time on the table in qualifying, and Oscar couldn't string together a lap that was nearly good enough to get him into the top 3. But I don't sense championship leader pressure being a deterrent or being a factor in Oscar winning or losing this one. I think he's more than capable of coping with that.
Yeah, but let's just remember this track here last year, he was 6/10 off Lando in qualifying last year as well. You know what I mean?
It's not his favourite track, is it? He's never qualified top for it.
But I think what's a little bit odd is we've said that about other tracks, Budapest, Barcelona, places like that, where last year he was behind, and then this year he made a big step forward. So we've sort of been expecting him to make the step like we've seen in a lot of other places, but it's not happened here. I think
he need another practice session?
I don't know. Monza as well, he was a little bit behind, wasn't he? They came here to do the TPC test, wasn't they? So Oscar's driven this track recently, admittedly in a 2-year-old car, but he's, they've given him a chance to get a bit more comfortable with the bumps around here and the track. But he always looked quarter of a second behind this weekend. So we'll see. I mean, I think to answer this question of whether it's the mental side of it, as you said, or if it's a one-off at this track, I think we need to go to a couple more. Because actually in Singapore, in qualifying, he was there, wasn't he? In the race he dropped back after the little first lap ding-dong. He didn't have the pace of Lando, but at least he had the quali pace. Here, he didn't even have the quali pace.
Yeah, he was 3/10 off all weekend. I'm interested. We spoke to Laurent Mekies afterwards. Think back to the start of the year. How could he possibly imagine that he was going to be leading a team, making an almighty comeback to try and lift the title? I wonder how it's affecting him. He seems like he takes everything very, very pragmatically, doesn't he? It's one race at a time, one session at a time. Engineering mindset at the top now of Red Bull. It feels. I mean, it does. It feels that the momentum is so huge in sport, and they've got it right now.
I think what he's done really, really well for me is he's stepped in a very tricky situation where Christian, for 20 years, has been the leader of that team. And within the factory, people were very loyal to Christian Horner.
Yeah.
And were visibly upset on the day that Christian was let go. And a lot of people were telling Craig Slater and myself that day, we owe our livelihoods to Christian Horner. He's built this place up, and we pay our mortgages because of that man's efforts. And Laurent has come in and has managed to win over the factory very, very quickly. And those Christian Horner loyalists, while still being loyal to Christian Horner, have absolutely got behind Laurent and his vision and his management style. So, hats off to the guy. He's just a very straightforward, honest, pragmatic thinking human being. And we'll talk about Tapegate in a minute, which is where I don't understand quite where Tapegate's come from.
Well,
can we explain this?
Let's explain
just for those that might not have followed
Yep.
the news overnight. Bit of tape put out by McLaren on both cars so they know where to stop, but particularly on Lando's. And then a mechanic from Red Bull has gone back onto the track to remove that tape.
yeah.
And they've got fined for it. Caught in flagrante.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic Dick Dastardly stuff, this, isn't it? I mean, what happens next? Do you unplug their wheel guns when they're not looking? But to be, well, let's maybe highlight the importance of it. Martin did that feature on our coverage of the weekend, showing how difficult it is to see your grid box. He illustrated by parking outside the grid box himself. It's actually something that's been quite common for many years. I mean, I remember my race engineer, when I first came to the UK in 2002, my race engineer, used to do that. Put tape on the wall. Ironically, he now works for the FIA.
Williams did it with Felipe Massa for years as well.
People have done it for many years. This is not a new trick. But I spoke to a couple of people this morning, actually, just before the podcast, and apparently this has been a bit of a game going on all year. Once Red Bull found out McLaren were doing this, they've been taking the tape off on other races. Then McLaren have found a stronger, stickier tape. All of this is just, as I say, this is rumor and conjecture that I've heard from a few people, so I can't confirm any of this.
It's ridiculous. I don't see where it gets Red Bull doing this sort of thing.
It's just a bit.
Guys,
I'll tell you what they're trying to do is it's a bit of gamesmanship, because when Lando pulls around and he's looking for that tape, it's, there's a lot going on the formation. I'm not going through the driver's mind. Lando was saying himself, right? Like, his heart rate's up. It's an intense lap. And you come there, you look for your marker, it's not there, does it slightly put him off? That's what they're trying to do. It's a bit of gamesmanship, but it's a bit naughty.
Grow up. Absolutely great. It's like in football where you give away a foul and then you go and kick the ball away. It's like, just don't. It really annoys me, this sort of, there is a word for it, but I can't say it on the podcast, but it's gamesmanship.
Imagine if I pulled away your grid notes that you've written.
Yes.
And as the cars are coming around, I know you're looking at it on the formation now. If I just sneak across and go,
He's
gone.
Oof. Grow up.
You two have both been saying, despite his flip-flipping at the start of the year, you've both been saying that you think that Oscar Piastri is going to win this title from quite a way back. Mm-hmm. Now, have you changed your mind?
No, I haven't. He won his F3 title and saw his lead whittled down to nothing. It was level on points going into the final round. He has a reference point in his memory bank for what's happening now, and he albeit the circumstances in that final race in the F3 year, his rival retired. I don't think he's panicking in any way, shape or form, and that's why I'm not changing my mind. He's not the sort of guy to panic, but he might be I think he definitely is in the car that's not the fastest car now. And it's that engineering turnaround at Red Bull that will win them this championship, because Max has always been the driver that can take advantage.
But I don't fully agree that they don't have the fastest car. I think Max is making a bit of a difference. I think they're equal fastest. I don't think I think, there's a Max factor here in all of this.
Well, to talk to Dr. Marco afterwards, and after the sprint on Saturday, he came up and said, in his inimitable fashion, very, very sort of stoically, he was talking about Max and the fact that he was doing what he wants to do. We let him go away. We let him do his stuff at the Nürburgring, and he thinks he's found 2/10 within him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And just by being happy, doing what he's needing to do, pressure being off, you can kind of see that. I think he's driving some of the best he's ever driven right now.
But also he can sniff the results.
Yeah.
McLaren used to say that with Senna in the years where the car wasn't quite there. On a weekend where they didn't have a chance, it's like, it just wasn't there. Where's his motivation to finish third or fourth? He's Ayrton Senna. Suddenly, on a weekend where there was a sniff of a victory, he'd unlock 2-3 times. I think we saw it with Lewis, 2022. The car wasn't quite there. Where's his motivation? So I think Max has raised his game. You're absolutely right. But just to answer your question, and I don't want to do another flip-flop here.
No, there's a flip-flop.
It's coming. It is coming.
But
it feels...
Because now it's 14 points, Oscar's lead to Lando, right? That's 2 victories. And all of a sudden they're equal. And I think I think psychologically for Lando, and I think this is something the Lando camp are fully aware of, 14 points is less than the 18 he lost in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
Since the summer break, he's been the informed McLaren driver. So I don't know. I honestly don't know, because actually Max could do this.
Well, okay. We'll see, won't we?
Yeah,
we'll see. And we've all got long to wait until the next round. Obviously, a week later, we're in Mexico, which actually has been traditionally more of a Red Bull track.
Yeah, I mean, those years, Crofty and I were talking about, there were years where Lewis and Mercedes were winning everything, but suddenly we get to Mexico and the Red Bull was amazing, wasn't it? And Max was brilliant around there. Oscar didn't have a good weekend there last year, don't forget. I think it was out in Q1, wasn't he? A bit of traffic or something caught him out and then didn't come through the race. Max and Lando had that ding-dong last year. So it's a good track for that sort of sort of madness. Yeah, I mean, bet against Max Verstappen at your peril now.
At your peril. Right, let's take a short break, shall we? And then you can get off to golf.
Yeah, a cowboy walks into a German car showroom and says, "Audi."
Beautiful. Quick word on our show partner, Audi. The philosophy of Audi Sport isn't just about winning races. It's about pushing boundaries. Everything learnt on the track goes straight into Audi's road cars, making them just as thrilling as they are refined. Take the Audi RS range, serious performance, but with a level of sophistication and refinement that doesn't need to be loud to make a statement. It's that perfect blend of power and precision wrapped in quiet luxury. Whether it's their powerful style or the RS Sports suspension with Quattro all-wheel drive for razor-sharp handling, Audi is constantly redefining the future of performance. Book a test drive today to experience the Audi RS range for yourself. Welcome back to our foyer. We're discussing what happened at the US Grand Prix. We've discussed Red Bull, we've discussed McLaren. Time is getting tight for Crofto, so let's press on, shall we, and talk about the Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. One thing you must say about what's happened this weekend is that they did turn it round after a poor start to the weekend. In between the sprint and getting ready for qualifying in the race, they found something in that car. They engineered their way back into the weekend.
Yeah, they did. And do you know what? Lovely to see them get a podium. First time in 6 races, I think it was. But you know, they had a 1-2 finish in Austin last year. And they finished 3rd and 4th this year. And it was very nearly 3rd and 5th because Lewis, for the second race in a row, is limping home. And it wasn't his brakes this time, but it was a puncture, wasn't it? His front right tyre. I mean, 1 second ahead of Oscar Piastri by the time he crossed the line. So, look, yeah, Ferrari will... And this is quite, I think, a prescient point. Ferrari will be delighted with a podium, and there will be a lot of smiles around Maranello. But it's not good enough. It's not good enough compared to what they did in Austin last year. It's not good enough compared to what people expected from the team this year. And it's not good enough for Lewis Hamilton. And I think there are signs that Lewis is running out of patience a little bit with his efforts to try and help the team improve and change some of their procedures to bring improvement and not being listened to. And that, to me, could become a story more and more down the line, that Lewis is desperate to try and help Ferrari, regain their glory years, but at the moment doesn't feel he's being listened to by management and those above management.
I feel that, he got his 5,000th point, didn't he?
First driver ever to do that.
Yeah, first driver ever to do that this weekend. But yet, he now has the record for the most amount of Ferrari starts without a podium.
And his teammates had 6 of them.
Yeah.
No. I mean, personally, I think it was the good luck that Simon brought by showing up at Charles Leclerc's birthday party.
How did you get an invite for that?
I didn't get an invite. Karun double-crossed us. I thought it was a sponsor to them. I was getting free barbecue. Went to the loo, came out and opened the door. It was quite harrowing for poor old Charles, nearly onto his dog's head. I think nearly mowed it open like that. Yeah, but he's okay. Poor little Leo. He looked traumatized, but he recovered from it well.
He recovered from it well. The cake was very tasty, but I think that's the right word, isn't it? Recovery. You touched on it there. They looked a bit all at sea on the Friday. The car looked difficult to drive. Charles looked behind Lewis, to be fair, all through Friday and even the sprint. The pace wasn't quite there. But he recovered well. Q3, he out-qualified him, and then in the race, he was quicker than Lewis. He pulled away, opened up a gap, and I thought that was impressive.
Right, Mercedes. 6 for George Russell. Kimi Antonelli, a collision with Carlos Sainz. Sainz has got a 5-place grid penalty for the next race in Mexico. But he comes on afterwards and is talking to Rachel in the pen, is George Russell. And it's the way he's sort of like, it's just processional. It's qualifying formula now. The deltas are big enough for us to make the overtakes. He wasn't complaining, was he? After Singapore when that happened.
He was absolutely fine with it.
He was fine with it. But has he got a point?
Look, we've reached the end of a era of regulations, and these regulations, I think, have been brilliant for Formula One. We have seen more and more overtaking, but as the cars get faster, obviously more turbulence is generated by them. And we're still getting more overtaking now, I think, than we did 15, 20 years ago. Certainly, in the refueling era of Formula One, where it was all about strategy. So, yeah, look, George is fine with it when he's winning and not fine with it when he's not. And that's exactly what I would expect. I don't think Toto was particularly impressed with the team's performance over the weekend. Certainly wasn't impressed with Carlos Sainz for that move on Kimi Antonelli. And I think the 5-place grid penalty is right in that respect. I also, just to break away from Mercedes, I'm very surprised the stewards didn't have a look at Yuki Tsunoda and Ollie Bearman as well. Because there was a definite jink to the left, and it definitely spooked Ollie enough so that he had to go on to the dirt. And the fact that it wasn't even noted by race control, I found that very surprising.
Yeah, it was not so much the move, but it was the move combined with the fact that he just seemed to dramatically slow. He was just dawdling along on the racing line. It's a bit like when people at airports are dawdling along in your path. It's like, it's just not pleasant, is it?
Airports are not a place to dawdle, ever.
Not if you're in front or behind David Croft.
No, you're there to get on a plane.
You're
get on
going to
with
get
it.
both barrels.
Get there, get on a plane, get on with it, stop dawdling.
Okay, hey, and sell Kimi Antonelli in the season that he's having. He's sort of one step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, it was no fault of his own, obviously, this one. But what did you think of his race weekend?
I think Kimi to me has recovered from that little mid-season blip that we saw from Canada onwards. And he's recovered his head a little bit as well, which is great. And he seems to be backing himself, and so he should, because he's a thoroughly talented driver. And his performances of late have been okay, to be honest. It's a rookie year. Next year, they will be expecting more from him. And he's got that contract for next year, and well done to him. And if there's a third year after that, well, that's when he has to become Oscar Piastri, right?
Well, this has been Oscar's year of Franklin Bootley, but as you said, it's year 3.
Yeah.
If they do have the best engine and the best package next year, do you think he can be pushing George, or do you think? I mean, George just is on a different level, I think, Lauren.
Yeah. If Kimi wants to challenge George next year, he will have to make that step. Yeah. I totally appreciate and I agree with you. Since the summer break, he has improved. He's making, we had that wobbly period. He was falling off the track in free practice. Zandvoort and Monza, they had a bit of a word with him. Baku was a great weekend. He looked quicker than George for the first time, and he's sort of built on that. But ultimately, overall, he's still slower than George. He's still behind George. So to your point, if they have the best car and we get a sort of Nico Lewis situation where it's an inter-Mercedes battle, he will have to make a big jump forward. Because I think if George sniffs a chance of a world championship, he will take a step, right? So I think it's, listen, we'll wait and see. Because also, are they both fighting to have the seat alongside a Max Verstappen coming in 27? So
yes,
all to be seen next year.
I mean, I think that's what's happening going here. I mean, that's why we've not had multi-year. We've had a year plus whatever it might be.
Yeah.
No one's giving us any further details on.
Yeah, Lewis was on a multi-year contract. Turned out to be a 1+1. I think George might actually have a longer contract than that. I don't think it's a 1+1. I've been doing a bit of digging, but people aren't really.
If he wins the World Championship next year, he'll keep his seat.
He'll keep his seat, quite. The thing for George, though, and the important bit for George is that from now on, he has repaid Mercedes back for the faith they showed in him from the junior time and getting him into Formula One. He's repaid that back. And he now needs to take control of his own destiny, and he needs his own management, not Mercedes. Now, Mercedes will say, no, you're still our asset. We still want to manage your career because without us, you wouldn't have got there. And that's where you get these sort of impasses. But just looking at it from the driver's perspective, not the team's, he needs control over his future.
George is 163 points clear of Kimi.
Yeah.
What's up, pin great big differential?
Yeah, exactly that. But, of course, a lot of that has come in the early part of the season, right? So I think, look, they're going to be there next year. Let's just see what happens once they get the car and get going.
Quick word on our show partner, Audi. The philosophy of Audi Sport isn't just about winning races, it's about pushing boundaries. Everything learnt on the track goes straight into Audi's road cars, making them just as thrilling as they are refined. Take the Audi RS range, serious performance, but with a level of sophistication and refinement that doesn't need to be loud to make a statement. It's that perfect blend of power and precision wrapped in quiet luxury. Whether it's their powerful style or the RS Sport suspension with Quattro all-wheel drive for razor-sharp handling, Audi is constantly redefining the future of performance. Book a test drive today to experience the Audi RS range for yourself. Okay, other stories. We should just touch on Yuki Tsunoda after we did talk to Dr. Martin again, and he said that post-Mexico they're going to make a decision about that. Has he done enough? I think it's 16 points in the last 3 races, where he's got 12 in the 16 before that. As Jensen was saying, he's still a long way down the road from Max, and it's just 7th. It's not like he's finishing in 2nd or 3rd.
It's better.
But has he done enough, or is it too late?
Look, it's better. I think it's a bit too little, too late. But I think the caveat is that he isn't still quite on parity with Max. And Ted was making those points in practice in terms of the upgrades that have gone on the car. But they're going to make a decision after Mexico. I kind of thought the decision had already been made, and that was the impression that I was getting.
Yeah, he's not actually any closer, is he? He's more competitive and he's scoring points because the car's better. To your point, the Red Bull's gotten better. He was still, what was he yesterday? 52 seconds behind Max in a 50. How many laps was the race? 56 laps. Yeah. So that's still back to the usual sort of 8, 9, 10th gap that we've seen all along.
What's the Racing Bulls lineup for next year?
Arvid Lindblad, Liam Lawson.
Who's driving in Mexico, isn't he? In FP1, I believe.
Yes, he is.
So,
which would be nice for you, 2 Horsley boys.
He's not, and it's not Horsley. Same school, we're in Centre. Yeah, he was a long time after me, Alan is. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it may well be that. I think they... listen, I hope that they give Liam another go. He's been on a turbulent journey this year, but actually... He's sort of come back a bit. He's been closer to Isaac in the last 7, 8 weekends, hasn't he? So I hope they give him another full season. And I do think, my personal view, I think Lindblad, Arvid is very, very good. I've got to know him a little bit over the last few years. He's extremely talented. But I think they shouldn't make the same mistake of just rushing these guys through too early. I would actually keep him in F2, but then do what Mercedes did with Antonelli and put together a massive TPC test program for him. Even though the cars will be a completely different generation, doesn't matter. Just give him loads and loads of mileage. Prepare him properly for 2027. Because, just to finish up, let's remember next year, Red Bull are going to be an engine manufacturer for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think having 4 drivers with Formula One experience, so I would actually keep Yuki. I actually think keep Yuki and Liam at Racing Bulls, Isaac and Max, have 4 experienced drivers, because it's a really important year. It's a massive year for Red Bull Technologies as a company to become an engine company. I think having 4 experienced drivers would be really helpful, and then you could put Lindblad in for 27.
Which makes perfect sense. But this is the Red Bull Junior Driver Development Program we're talking about here. And patience, consistency, we don't always see that.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Ollie Bearman, as we're saying, one of those weekends again, it was his best ever qualifying performance. He does show real flashes of brilliance, doesn't he, on Saturdays? If he can just level things out, become more... I think he is becoming more consistent.
Yeah.
But if he can, for next year, that's got to be plan A, hasn't it? Just to iron out the inconsistencies and do it at most racetracks.
Absolutely, but he should have finished 7th.
Yeah.
He should have finished 7th. And that move that Yuki put on him, he moved under braking. I didn't think it was fair at the time. Didn't get noted. Ollie certainly didn't think it was fair. Had Yuki not done that, I thought he would definitely have got past him. It would have been 7th, but by going on the dirt, he lost 8th as well to Nico Hülkenberg. And by the way, great to see Nico Hülkenberg back in the points again.
Yeah, cracking weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Really, really super weekend.
You gave me a really funny look in the commentary box on Friday in practice when I said, watch Nico Hulkenberg for a good weekend. You were
Yeah.
like, really? What?
How did you know, Crofty?
Well, eventually one of my silly predictions has got to come true, right?
Oh, you make so many.
I also said Carlos Sainz was going to win because he finished third 2 years ago, second last year, so it stands to right he
Well,
was going
one
to
out of two
win.
is not bad.
Yeah.
You got that one, Mon. Williams weekend?
Well, great for Carlos in the sprint, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That cheer he got from the crowd was amazing.
It was. I mean,
It was so nice.
Huge Latin American following, isn't there, here in Austin?
Yeah, but I think it's more than that, Simon. I think people like the Williams recovery story. I think the fans are really enjoying seeing, a team super successful in the past, having a tough time, rebuilding. And Carlos is popular. He actually got, I think, a lot of people on side for the fact that he got biffed from Ferrari, didn't land a top seed at Mercedes or Red Bull, ended up going to a midfield team. And I think, a lot of fans are actually enjoying this Carlos Sainz Renaissance story.
Operating smoothly.
I see what you did
He
there.
is, though, isn't he? I mean, the last few races, it's the old Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, the old Carlos Sainz, starting to see signs of the old Williams as well, and a team that's gelling together a bit more cohesively. Yeah, it's a shame the race didn't go well for him, the Grand Prix, and that move on Kimi. Alex Albon, drove, I think, a steady Grand Prix as well. But they probably exceeded expectations in terms of where that team is on and off the track after James has kind of ripped up the playbook and started again. And I think we'll see a very strong Williams next year.
Right, that's your lot. You're off to play golf at the place with 5 halfway huts, so come back, compliment us later, will you?
Drive to Survive, part 2.
And crew?
I'm going cycling. I've rented a bike, and producer Tommy is going to show me the roads around Austin.
Oh, is he? Great.
And you?
Yeah, I'm not decided. The world is my oyster. Austin is my oyster. Thanks for listening to the F1 Show podcast. It's been a blast. We'll see you in Mexico.